I am once again in Amsterdam. So Carlo van Lienden was the one that basically believed in what I had to say. Started when you were a cyclist. Quite a good one, actually.
Yeah, I was always passionate about cycling, live for one dream. So I was quite good at it. Yeah, I made it to the national team. And then the doctor is telling you, stop with chasing your dream. It's over here. Then the question remains, so what I'm going to do with my life after my cycling career?
People cannot live without media.
The metaverse, to me, is a container concept. Artificial intelligence, augmented reality, virtual reality, blockchain. It will enable us to live a seamlessly mixed reality life. For sure, if we're going to enter that era not knowing who you are and not knowing what you want, it can lead to a disaster.
So before we begin this conversation, I want to ask everyone to make sure you remain to the second half. So we're going to have two very, very separate conversations that I think will benefit you very, very strongly, each of them. So as I start my conversation with my wonderful friend Carlo, remain with us till the end. Thank you for joining me. I am once again in Amsterdam in this endless quest for wisdom. Today, to talk to you about a topic of the future, really, with one of my dearest friends. But before I start, I want to point out the incredible background behind us. We are at the offices of Insam Hout.
Correct.
We are at the offices of Insam Hout, which my dear friend Yip Samhout has offered us the space to record and film today. Behind us, you can see we're really like at the dead center of Amsterdam. It is behind me is a little further away from the central station, but the central station is right over there. So all of us tourists, when we come to Amsterdam, that's basically all we see. But I have to admit, with the background of the canals behind us, it's really, really pretty. I am with another incredibly dear friend. Let me start by telling you a story. When I wrote Solve for Happy, my wonderful agent and dear friend, Michael Carlisle, told me openly, you should not write a big hit. He said, write a book that's evergreen so that every year you sell more of it than the year before. Make it not the kind of book that's like a firework. You get it all over the news and the media, and then you sell a lot, and then nobody buys it anymore. And so we actually wrote Solve for Happy that way. We focused so much on the idea of not making it something that will burn away quickly. And that's been the truth. We've sold every year more than we've sold the year before since the book came out, because of your kind recommendations to each other. But there has been two events that definitely put Solve for Happy and 1 Billion Happy, the mission, on track to where we are today. One of them was the Channel 4 video that was shot in London around 4 weeks after the book was published, which basically was talking about committed acceptance. And the video became super, super, super viral. I think we had 87 million views of it in the first 2 weeks of its being put on the internet. And the other event was RTL Late Night here in the Netherlands, where RTL Late Night was by far at the time the biggest show in the Netherlands. And with the host of the show being so dynamic and so good at asking me the right questions, Umberto Tan, and I basically had an amazing conversation where Solve for Happy, Die Logica van Geluk, became number 2 on the charts literally the next morning and stayed there for several weeks. We sold more than 100,000 copies in the Netherlands, which by the standards of the size of the population is quite popular. Behind the scenes of Umberto and the show and the whole, cameras and the other guests and so on, was probably one of the most renowned directors in the history of television in the Netherlands. So Carlo van Lienden was the one that basically believed in what I had to say and allowed me to be on the show. He directed RTL Late Night, and before that RTL Boulevard, and truly made a massive difference to the scene of TV in the Netherlands, and then quit and decided that the direction of the consumer preference, the feeling. Carlo is that kind of person that has that gut feeling. It's very logical, very systemic at the way he does business, but and directs, his shows. But he has that sense, that feeling of this is not the right direction where I should be. He quit. And he went on a very interesting personal journey as well as a career journey that I will discuss with him today, so that I take you from the past of television to the future of connection. I think it's going to be an amazing conversation. So, Carlo, thank you for your friendship. Thank you for believing in me. And thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you for having me on the show, and such an amazing introduction.
It's the truth, totally.
Okay, well,
every time I met you since we got introduced, that was what was in my heart. Did I not say it before?
No, definitely. I mean, and if you didn't say it, you have always let me feel it. So that's
from my heart, absolutely.
Another way to communicate with each other.
Yeah, and I have to say, Carlo, you have that incredible mix in you. So you have this Dutch directness, very logical. You rarely ever say anything that's not backed up with data, right? But behind that, there is this very feeling person, okay, who is completely driven by, I don't know if it's intuition or you see things, I think, before we see them.
Yeah, and I think that's a privilege, but it's also something to carry with you, because it's also, I think, as long as I'm aware of being a human, it's also something that I carry with you, and it's always a battle from my youth. I mean, I think when you talk with my mother, she will tell you incredible stories about teachers who were telling her, prepare yourself that this could be something to deal with the rest of your life.
It's going to be difficult.
Because we don't know what to make of him. But I think that was always that, I am, where everybody goes right. I want to go left if that feels better for me. But it's also that, you're always a little bit ahead of your time. So that's something that I definitely dealt with when I quitted the job in the TV industry, like you said, with RTL Boulevard and RTL Late Night. Yeah, that was not the easiest path and not the easiest time for me in all kinds of way. But that was definitely the other side of, choosing your own path and follow your own feeling. And I made some mistakes, I think, the last couple of years, within doubt and a lack of self-confidence, that I learned my lessons the last couple of years after I quitted my job as a TV director of RTL Boulevard and RTL Late Night, because I made decisions with my head and not with my heart. So I paid a price for that. But eventually, sitting here, I'm a better professional and a more around person after I recovered from that decision. Yeah.
So I want to go back to the industry in a bit, but first I want to actually, if you don't mind, talking about your personal life a little bit. Something I know about you started when you were a cyclist back as a teen.
Yeah,
quite a good one actually.
Yeah, I made it to the national team. So I was always passionate about cycling. My father was a cyclist, so I grew up literally around the course. And eventually they let me do my thing, and they couldn't stop me.
We know that.
So I was quite good at it. Made it to the national team. Had a dream, was fully focused on becoming a professional. That was the only thing I literally lived for. That was also the choice why I wasn't good at school. But when I started cycling and I had to focus to become a pro, then suddenly school, went up instantly, because I said, okay, so I don't want to have any trouble or don't have any distraction about my schoolwork. So I did what I had to do to just
interesting. To be allowed to live your dream.
Yeah, exactly. And to be focused on that part of my life. The thing was that when I was riding for the national team, it was made very clear that if you want to become a pro cyclist, then you have to be capable of riding uphill. So you have to, eventually be capable of riding tours from a week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks. And there's always some climbing involved. And I'm not a climber, so I'm more a guy. I'm too big and too heavy for riding uphill. So that was a problem, and didn't get, I think, the right mental and physical support back then. So figuring it out by yourself, and eventually I developed an eating disorder
to try and reduce
lose weight. Yeah, because if you want to ride uphill and you ain't capable of riding uphill, then you're going to figure out, okay, so how I'm going to do and how can I follow the pack uphill, because I was always one of the first to get dropped. Also mentally tough. So yeah, then eventually you stop eating because you think less weight is more power uphill. And that became, not in that year, but 2 years later, it became a really big problem. I mean, if I look at pictures from back in the days, you can see that I'm not healthy. And eventually, it kicked my ass, because I didn't have any energy in the tank to do what I do best: riding the flats, riding the Flemish classics. Spring classics. That was my specialty. And nowadays, you should say, as a pro rider, you can earn your money with that specialty. But like I said, without the right guidance and the right coaching, so then eventually, the body says no. Not the computer says no, but the body says no. And doctors are figuring out, so what's going on with the body. They can't find anything. And then you are 19, 20, live for one dream. And then the doctor is telling you,
can't try it anymore.
Yeah, no, just stop with chasing your dream, because we can't find anything and it's over here. And that was...
So it wasn't clear for you that the reason why you're losing strength is because you're not eating?
No. And
That's
now backwards thinking, you said, how could I miss that? Mm-hmm. But everything and everybody around you is working with you to create your story, to create your truth. And is helping you to realize your dream. So everybody is focusing on doing what they think is right, but eventually looking backward,
wasn't right for you.
No, with the knowledge that I'm living with today, then you should say, how could we miss that?
How long did it take you? So you started to sort of go down that track when you were 17. By 19, you're not able to...
Yeah, 15, I think. And I think it was around 20 that I quit it.
That is horrible. Like, that's a dream crushed.
Yeah, and it was... I don't think about it a lot anymore, but also I think the one that really knows what I'm talking about is my mother. That were black days. That was really deep depression. And I didn't have anything to go. So I didn't have a social life and didn't have many friends because all that I did was focus on cycling.
Yeah.
So I didn't know, so what's next? So after the doctor told me, stop, I stopped for 1 season. And afterwards I tried for 2 years to come back. Didn't came back on the level that I was on before. And I know that I had one weekend that was terrible. It was and then I decided, if I ain't gonna make money as a professional cyclist, what am I going to do for a living? And back in my youth, I was on school, and we saw a clip of professionals, who explained what they did, and I saw one time a cameraman telling what his job was, and so I went back home after I did a terrible competition, and I sat down. Googled, so how can I become a cameraman? And then I found the course for journalism, and I said, okay,
that's what
I'm going to do that, and I'm going to still ride the bike, but I'm going to study. Yeah, and that's where a tipping point came, where eventually, as an internee, I have to go to Archer Boulevard for 3 months, and that 3 months became a year, and that year became 10 years, and the rest is history. So
incredible. Would you tend to believe that? Let me ask this differently: if you were to look back now at losing that cycling career for your TV career, do you think it was a fair trade from life?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, because I think it brought me so much more, the whole experience, I think from a personal perspective, knowing who you are, I'm sitting with a man who has dealt with much more than I did, but hitting the ground, the bottom, and then figuring out, okay, so how can we get on our feet again? And
that's the whole game.
So I think for sure, and I think as a cyclist, it's a small world. If you are a professional cyclist, you are done at 35. Maybe if you're lucky and treated yourself well, maybe you can make it to the 40s. But then the question remains: so what I'm going to do with my life after my cycling career? So I think this path of going to the TV industry was way richer than when I should have become a cyclist.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I always think of that. Normally, most of the biggest things we ever achieve in life, we're forced into by life. Most people don't realize that. You think that I became chief business officer of Google X because I'm clever. Not at all. It's, life puts you in a corner.
Yeah.
And somehow the only path you have ahead of you is, okay, I have to go that way. And that way makes you something, right? And all of those things, when I think back at my life, some people will say it should be your proudest achievement to be chief business officer of Google X. I actually think in reality, I became chief business officer of Google X for the sole reason of being famous enough when I published my first book.
Yeah.
So it was basically life sort of setting the stones in place to say, okay, we're going to give you some credibility so that when you write the book we want you to write, people actually buy it, right? And then somehow we look back at that and we realize, wow, that tough time was actually very good for me. And yet the next tough time, we go like, why? Why is life doing this to me? And it's really quite eye-opening for me.
But it takes courage and time to and in some kind rest to look back and see the process.
Yeah.
And then, for the future, have self-confidence to trust on what the Stoics call what nature is giving you.
Yeah.
So
you come across like a real Stoic to me. We never talked about that before.
No, but I studied the Stoics very deeply, and I feel very, very connected to the Stoic philosophy. And when I read, I think Marcus Aurelius, his meditation guide is on my side next to my bed. Every evening I read some piece of content of his meditations. The Stoics for me is now at 43 coming home for me. And some people say it's a boring philosophy.
Oh, not at all.
But the Stoicism is, I feel so connected to those guys.
When you think of what you did in your early 20s, that's quite Stoic, actually. It's like, okay, this path is closed. What can I do? Cameraman.
Yeah.
I'm going to look at that.
Yeah.
And, for our listeners who may not be fully aware of Stoicism, I would definitely encourage you to go back and listen to Donald Robertson, the first year of Slo Mo, and who wrote the, I don't remember the name of the book, about Marcus Aurelius, basically. And it was an incredible conversation. So let's go continue.
And let me say one more. The Stoics, if you read their original writing, then they talk a lot about nature. And with nature, they mean, your thoughts and living with the nature is very important for the Stoics. And I think in some kind of way we, the word nature, that how we use it today, they used it in a totally different way, and
it's
we
the
could
way
learn
life,
a lot from it.
It's the way life unfolds. Basically. It is the mechanical system beyond life, and how life will always treat you, regardless of how you wish it would treat you.
Yeah.
It seems that life will come with some tests, and that's part of its nature.
Yeah, and how you deal with that kind of test, that's where the Stoics say. So they talk a lot about nature, and they talk and they use the word virtue a lot.
Absolutely.
So those two words are definitely something, focusing on the effort and on the things that you can control instead of what you can't control. That's where Stoics, I believe, have us a lot to learn.
I agree. Totally agree. So let's fast forward a bit.
Yeah.
Before we go to TV and media and so on, I want to stay with your personal story. That was not the end of your sports career, though.
No.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I sort of feel a bit jealous of you. So you're a top 50 triathlete. So this, for those who don't understand, is like the most grueling thing humanity should ever do. Like I look at those people and I go like, what's wrong with you? Like, why do you do this? It's 9 hours? No, more.
It depends on the course.
Yeah.
But it's always, so we are in Amsterdam, so 3.8 kilometers swim, 180 kilometers bike ride. And then you are in for a treat because then you have to run a marathon.
Sorry, but that's funny.
This combination of sports, so swimming, biking, and running, there were 3 friends who had a discussion on Hawaii, Kona, in 1979, I believe. And they discussed, so who of us is the best athlete? And they couldn't figure it out. So they decided, so what if we make one competition, so one play with all the 3 the sports integrated in each other, and the guy who's the first on the line is the winner, and that became the triathlon. So always swimming, biking, and running, and it depends on the course, the weather conditions. So time is always event specific, year specific even. But Hawaii is every year still the World Championship. And because of the conditions, the humidity and the heat, it's a grueling event. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're doing all of that in the Hawaii humidity and heat.
Yeah.
And I mean, it would take me around probably a month to walk 180 kilometers. So you bike 180 kilometers. That would probably take me forever because I don't bike anyway.
Yeah.
So and then the marathon is what, 30 some kilometers?
Yeah, it's a marathon, so it's 42.2 kilometers.
Nice. Yeah. That's like 4 days for me. Okay. Yeah. So how did you end up in that place?
Well, talking about nature, I was back in those days working way too hard. I think you could say I know that passionate about work. So I'm a workaholic because I want to do the right thing, and that's demanding. So I think I was working way too hard, maybe a little bit overworked as an editor-in-chief of Archel Boulevard back in the days. And I was on a holiday with my wife on Zanzibar. And I was reading a book of Mark Allen, 6 times winner of the Ironman in Hawaii. And in the blink of an eye, I said to her, wow, that's, doing the triathlon in Hawaii, that's something. And she said, if you want to do that, then you go upstairs to our room, you grab your goggles, you dive in the pool right here, and you start. I said, okay.
That's such a Dutch wife.
In
your face.
Yeah.
It's like, don't, bluff with me. If you're talking about it, go ahead and do it.
Yeah, do it. Yeah. Do it. So I did.
That's such a Dutch man.
I grabbed my goggles and I get in the water and that's where it all started. And 5 years later, fast forward, I was on Hawaii. But the funny thing is, and you can't think about that in advance, but the funny thing is that the 5 year that I took, I needed to, from that moment in Zanzibar to, being on the start line of Hawaii, was life-changing. And it was life-changing because I had the experience as a cyclist not realizing my dream to become. So it was I think an open and unfinished business, you could say. And then I started training for triathlon, and deep inside, I immediately recognized the same thoughts, the same feelings that I had as a cyclist, and I decided,
trauma of
exactly that trauma. And I immediately decided this is not the way I want to do this sport. I'm not going to do it for the second time and make the same decisions. So I decided to go and work with a sport
psychiatrist.
Yeah, Sandra van Essen. And that woman, I mean, and I'm smiling while saying it. She was so hyper professional, but she changed my life because in some kind of way it was also a physical journey. I mean, talking about the eating disorder, I mean food, eating, fueling yourself in the right way. If you are competing for 9-10 hours, then fuel is something to work on. So I got a second chance on that and got so much knowledge and so much insights of eating the right things to not only perform well, but I think also, doing the right thing when you are at work and so eating the right things and what it means to live the good life. But also I think mentally, it changed my life. It was a life-changing event. And for sure, it's nice to focus on the 10th of October 2015. I was on that starting line. I had the best physical and mental day I could have. I think, the best day of my life till date. But for me, that 5 years was way more important than that day on Hawaii. What was closing of unfinished business, for sure. Realizing a dream I had. But the things I learned along the way, that was mind-blowing. Yeah,
that's, to me, I think, my favorite part of your story. And the reality of, it's a very big achievement. I can openly say I will never achieve this, ever, right? Or maybe I should, but did you see?
Well, we are here in there's water. We can grab some Googles, and I can challenge you, like the way Marijke did. Dive in and start here.
You see, this is why I will never do it. But anyway, so the thing is, it's a very big achievement. But every time you talk to me about this, it's very much the journey.
Yeah,
that you celebrate.
It's a process.
Yeah, talk to me about the heights altitude training.
Yeah, so to place it in context, I switched from RTO Boulevard during the period I was training as a triathlete, and during those years, Hawaii was something on the horizon for sure. It was a dream, but if you are capable of really start at Hawaii, you have to qualify. It's very, very hard to even get a ticket to start in Hawaii. So, and I was back in those days, editor-in-chief of RTO Late Night, what was more
grueling.
Yeah, but also, if you talk about something that came deep from inside of me, then RTO Late Night was definitely something I was strongly attached and passionate about. Longer days. We talk about a late night show. It's crazy. So I had a friend, which is a famous Dutch cyclist, Gert-Jan Teunissen, who I think is totally misunderstood here in the Netherlands because of his career and the path he chose. But it's an amazing, amazing guy. And he always told me, since I met him and we became friends, he always said to me, you have to go to altitude. You have to go to altitude. With the way you live, with the work you do, you have to go to altitude. And I said, yeah, but I don't have the time. I didn't give myself, the time to go, because if you want to do altitude training, you have to go there for at least 10 days to get some effect. And 14 days, 16 days is the best window to go. And you go on altitude because, there's less oxygen in on
height, yeah.
2,000 meter above sea level. So your body is adapting on an environment with less oxygen. And if you return to sea level, you have an advantage of, you are capable of transporting more oxygen to your muscles, and that will eventually lead to better performance. That's in a simple way why you do it. So
it's like fuel injection. No, like turbocharging a machine.
EPO is something that's been used in the 90s and 2000s, and it's in a natural way. You give yourself some EPO, and I can tell you it works.
Yeah, it does.
And it's incredible what it does to your body. But more important, so when RTL decided that they wanted to bring RTL Late Night to their station, I stopped with RTL Boulevard, and I was in between jobs, in between programs. So I had one summer of 2 months that I was free of doing what I want. So I said to Gert-Jan, okay, so let's go to the Sierra Nevada here in Spain. It's a ski resort in Spain. The contradiction of those
temperatures.
And he said to me, okay, so let's go. And training on altitude is a little bit dangerous. If you don't know what you're doing, it's easy to do yourself more damage than to do good. And he is very much experienced of training on altitude. So he said, I will come with you and we're going to train together and I will learn you everything I can of training on altitude. And being there, the Sierra Nevada, like I said, it's a ski resort in Spain. And mainly you can imagine you have two things there. And one is you have there nothing. And the second thing is you have totally nothing.
You should be happy with nothing.
It's, you have to be capable of just sitting there with a mission to train. And we were there on altitude and your body is working and it's not, especially in the first days that you are there, it's not funny, it's not comfortable to be there because your body is, is working and says some alarm bells going off and so because it's the lack of oxygen. And we were there and we were, I remember the moment quite well. We were having dinner 2,500 meters above sea level. And he said to me, the one that's capable of managing his ego is the one who's capable of leading a happy life. And he said that to me because training on altitude, something that you can use is your ego because you have to go slow. You have to go slow and you have to only focus on the efforts that you have to do that day. And the rest, you have to be in peace with yourself. And from that moment on, it taught me a lot about, being calm in a sense that being calm, more like an emotional calmness. I think, if you talk about Stoics in some kind of way, the calmest Stoics are telling you to be calm, handle with your emotions, focus on only the things that you have to do and not worry about the things that are around you.
Outside your control.
Very important.
Yeah.
So from that moment on, I came back and I said to Marijke, my wife, I don't know and I don't care what happens to me in the upcoming years. But from now on, every year, I'm going 2 weeks to the Sierra Nevada and just to sit there. And for me, thinking about it, it makes me laugh, but it could also make me cry because that's such a happy place for me. It's incredible. And the first year it became an important place for me to prepare myself on events like the European Championships and the World Championships. But afterwards, when I stopped triathlon, I went there with Marijke for 2 times and she has the same experience there. And, just sit there. We book a room in one hotel that's open. And you sit there for 2 weeks for, I believe, €600 because
they're very happy to see you.
Yeah, they are willing to pay you as long as you come. And just be there and in the thin air and be with yourself and really go back to nature and to the essence of life, I think. And that has nothing to do with the Western hectic, materialistic life that we are used to live here in Amsterdam. Yeah, that learned me a lot about who I am and especially who I want to be.
It's funny. So the other person that said this on this podcast was Mathieu Ricard, who is known to be one of the world's most committed monks. He's done 60,000 hours of lifetime meditation. And I know Matthew very well and I love him. He's an amazing human being. And there was a point in time where he engaged heavily to try to make the world a better place. And, he was always at Davos and so on and so forth. And when I asked him, and he said, my favorite place is my little hermitage where he goes, it's 1 meter by 3 meters, he said, no running water, no heating, where he sometimes spent 4 years there. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
And that's his happiest place on the planet. It's quite interesting the way you describe, it's not just that there is nothing, and you have to sit there with your thoughts. And it's really a form of a monkhood if you think about it. But along with it, you have to go down 50 meters and up 150 meters every day. And I remember you once telling me that's the idea of the ego, because you'd be on your bicycle or whatever. And if a car behind you starts to, you know, to go like, you're too slow for me, your typical ego will be like, look at me, I can do more, right? But that could kill you, basically. And so it's a very humbling experience overall that we rarely ever get in the modern world. And, you know, somehow, of course, I keep talking about the idea of the need for silence, the need for distance. And it's definitely something I probably want every one of our listeners to consider, even if it is just, as I always say, a mini silent retreat, you know, a half a day on Sunday morning every 2 weeks where you just sit and do nothing. It just makes all the difference to have that silence, that peace, that zero ego, zero need to engage, I think makes all the difference. Let's switch gears a little bit.
I want to say one thing about, if I can. What you said just right now, you know, it is something that I discovered after I quitted my job with RTL Boulevard and RTL Late Night. I was, you know, questioning myself. So what did I do that I was capable of running a late night TV show, work for maybe 50, 60 hours a week easily, and at the same time train for one of the hardest races in the world, making training weeks for 20, 25 hours a week. So
amazing.
What was it that I didn't burn out back in those days? And in my search, I came to a book, Peak Performance, from two guys, Brad Stulberg and Stephen Magnus. And in their book, they had a formula. And the formula is very simple. And they say stress, being out of your comfort zone, so being pushing yourself, plus rest is grow. So the thing that they in a scientifically explain there is that you need stress to achieve things. So, you know, if we talk about a balanced life, they say if you want to achieve things, you ain't searching for a balanced life. It doesn't take you anywhere. You need discomfort, you need stress to make things happen and to level up your game. But in the same way, you need rest. You need to be sitting quietly in a room alone. You need some time off and do nothing to think, to digest. And that two things will eventually lead to growth. And that is something that an athlete does. He's training, he's resting, and his muscles grow. But it's also the same that we as a human has to get in front of our eyes that we shouldn't be anxious about stressing ourselves and doing things out of our comfort zone. But we also don't have to be anxious about doing nothing and just sit quietly in a room alone. And that's so when you say up there and in the Sierra Nevada, there's nothing. Yeah, that's what people should say or will tell you who are now here in Amsterdam chasing the career and the new car, the new Rolex or whatever. They will go up that hill and say, what the fuck is this? There's nothing here. And I say,
it's everything.
I have everything that I want just on that spot. So that's a big difference about the way you look at things. But stress plus rest is eventually grow.
So this idea of, I mean, would you consider your time there some kind of meditation? Maybe?
Yeah, definitely. But I also consider being on my bike alone, riding for 6 hours. That's also my way of meditating. Doing an endurance run for 2.5 hours. That's also my way of meditating. I always train alone. Why? Because I know now that is my meditation time. That's why I want to go. So if people or friends are asked if they can join me on a bike ride, it depends heavily on how I feel and in what kind of emotional or how busy my work week was. Because when I have a busy week or I'm not emotionally not in the place I want to be, I immediately say, and I can be bluntly honest. I immediately say, yeah, I'm sorry, man, but I'm going to ride the bike tomorrow, but I'm going alone.
So how about the pain, if you don't mind me asking that? So part of that experience, I don't know how fit you are, but I'm sure every human being, after a few hours of your muscle work, your body is sort of trying to tell you, can we break now?
Stop. Yeah,
right?
Yeah. It's a little voice in your head who's telling you,
little voice in your head,
how long are we going to do this?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the battle. And in triathlon, they say embrace the suck.
Interesting. What does that mean?
Yeah. Well, accept the pain. So don't tell yourself that the pain isn't there. Just say like it is. The pain is there. The pain is for real. Yeah, but the problem is you have to deal with it. So embrace the pain, and in that moment, in that moment of pain, and the body shouting and the brain is shouting to you, okay, let's stop. You have to find some peace with yourself, and that says, no, I'm comfortable sitting here, and it will pass. It will pass. Let's see within 1 kilometer, maybe 5 minutes, how we think of. So quiet the mind is something that is very important. Quiet the mind and embrace the suck. It is what it is, You want to achieve this. You want to be the hero crossing the line and that picture and, someone beside you who's telling Carlo van Lienden, you are the Iron Man. Oh, okay. This is what it takes. Embrace the suck.
Do you apply that at work too?
With the knowledge I have now, definitely. Because I know when things are getting rough and things are getting difficult, that's probably the way you have to go. So the hard decisions, and that's something the Stoics also tell you, the obstacle is the way. Probably the hardest way is the way to go. I mean, making decisions, especially if you want to let you guide about your own emotions and your own feeling. It's like we started the conversation. Being in the forefront of trends and being in the forefront of, where things are going and heading, then that's definitely the hard way, but it's the way to go.
So when does one change? Because that could be very deceiving. If you're in the wrong place, if you're in the wrong relationship, if you're in the wrong job, embracing the suck might be a very bad idea, no? I mean, it's keeping you in a place where it's probably not the best place for you, is it?
Training and doing endurance sport, it's something that you choose for us. So that's at that moment the place you want to be, and you have to be. But I think the tipping point for me, I can only explain what the tipping point was for me, is knowing that I am responsible. So I am responsible for everything I do, and I'm responsible for every outcome that I want to achieve. So that's why you could say, so yeah, if you want to go to Hawaii and if you want to do that triathlon, embrace the suck, because you are responsible if you now quit the training because you don't want to feel that pain anymore. But if you want to go to Hawaii, then you have to accept the pain and accept that for your outcome, you're responsible for finishing this training and nobody else.
Applies really nicely actually to the current state I'm in today, because I actually don't talk about that much, but Slo Mo hasn't been very slow for me in the last few weeks, right? I mean, most people know that this now has been my quest for wisdom. So I travel the world and I meet amazing people everywhere in the world, and back and forth between London and Bakewell and Manchester and here, and and I have really, really wanted to take a retreat. I wanted 45 days where I live my half monk reality, some place far away where I can have total silence. And because Slo Mo is weekly, that means that 45 days is 6 episodes. And, if I need a couple more as a buffer so that I don't have to record immediately, I needed to record a buffer. And I've been really embracing, I don't call it the suck because every guest was amazing. But I have to say, incredibly, it was quite demanding, right?
Yeah.
And I kept reminding myself every time we're setting up again. And this comes right after my book tour for That Little Voice in Your Head. I always reminded myself, but that's because I want to go to Hawaii. In that case, I want to disappear somewhere and completely reflect and finish editing my unstressable book and, with Alice and write my next book, which everyone is really, really grilling me to write. It's halfway through Finding Love. And I enjoy that tremendously. So the reward is so high that I've been pushing myself for the last 4 or 5 weeks to just get everything done properly. And I absolutely believe that. I believe that embracing the suck in that case is probably the wise thing to do. As long as at the end of the day, that doesn't become your lifestyle. It is done for a reason, for something that you desire.
Yeah, and I think you can clearly time box or you can clearly set the period when listening to you, I mean, and we talked about it recently, that it's also still for me, but also for you, a little war inside, to achieve things, to do things and make the world a better place with the talent you have. And that came with a price. That's where you're talking about with recording the podcast and doing all the good work with the little voice in your head and, the interviews and that kind of thing. And then and in the other side, you want to take 45 days off or maybe more time off to just be a monk and, leave me alone. So if you come back to what I just said, you could say now definitely you are in a time of stress. So out of your comfort zone, but that you are still responsible of Slo Mo and your listeners and your fans providing every week with a podcast. So you have to stress yourself now and doing the things you have to do to your next phase is rest. And I also going to tell you need that period of rest.
Absolutely.
To not only recover, but also to reflect on this period. Yeah. And that will eventually set you in a place and in a situation and that you can write the best next book or the next chapter. And it will provide you the insights, to go forward. And that's the grow part.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it is the reflection that is needed to actually do this right? It's the growth bit is really the idea of finding that peace to learn something new, to reflect and find something new. I wanna shift gears heavily, as a matter of fact. I think people who will join the podcast now will have no idea how different the rest of the conversation has been, because a big part of what I believe is distracting most of us is media.
Yeah.
We live in a world where, I don't know how to say it any other way. If you think back in the 1800s, nobody felt bored when there was nothing on TV or nothing on Instagram or nothing on Netflix. But today, people cannot live without media.
Yeah.
And the trends of media have been changing very drastically over the last few years in ways that people don't realize. So, I don't know if this is true. I'd ask your opinion. But I definitely think that there was no binge watching TV There is a lot of binge watching Netflix.
Yeah.
There was no swiping on Netflix. There is a lot of swiping on Instagram. And that trend continues now into what Meta is trying, Facebook, as I always call them. I don't like the word Meta. The idea of the metaverse and sucking us further and further into that fake world.
New reality.
New illusion. Is it new reality?
Yeah.
I don't know. So you started, was it 2017 when you did? Yeah. So you started to recognize those trends back in 2017, and the TV is going away.
Yeah.
And that the world is changing drastically.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about this journey? Where are we heading?
Well, where are we heading? Yeah, that's a good question. I think we are heading to a mixed reality life for sure. So I think mixing our physical presence on planet Earth with our digital presence in all kind of virtual worlds as an avatar, I think that will be something that's ahead of us for the upcoming years. And I gave a lot of keynotes about this topic. And then when I say that sentence, we're going to mix our physical presence on planet Earth with our virtual presence in multiple virtual worlds as an avatar. And we go in that world because we're going to work, we're going to shop, and we're going to party, socialize in that kind of virtual worlds. People are looking at me and saying, yeah, okay, whatever, But then deeper down the rabbit hole, I'm showing them some examples of what's going on with Generation Z, and also what's going on now with Generation Alpha. So born from 2010 till 2025. So some of them has to be born in the upcoming years. Mm-hmm. And what you see there is that they are so heavily involved, and you are a gamer, they are so heavily involved from their early days. So from the moment that they can walk in gaming, that for them it's a second nature to be in games like Fortnite, Roblox, and Minecraft as an avatar, and not only be there to play games, but nowadays they gather there to join for a birthday party. They come there to visit concerts for Ariana Grande, for Justin Bieber, from Lil Nas X, and the most important thing is that to identify themselves to their friends, they dress their avatars with all kinds of material, as we know it, as material goods. So from Gucci, from Tommy Hilfiger, from Nike. So Gucci, Nike, Tommy Hilfiger all got brand stores in Roblox. And those kids, 8, 10-year-old, are spending their pocket money on Roblox because they want to have or they want to buy the latest virtual sneakers. So when they are with their friends, they can show them, I have that Nikes in Roblox. So, and then, when I explain that to the audience, then when the group is small and we have an interactive session, then there are always 2, 3, 4 parents that then say, oh, now I understand why my kid is an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old and he asked me for money so he can buy for... That's going on in my house already. I say, So let's go back to that sentence and say, we will, within 5, 10 years, have a mixed reality life where the physical goods and the physical way we live is equal important to the virtual world and the virtual goods that we, and especially the upcoming generations, are going to buy.
I mean, I'm holding myself back so strongly from saying that's nuts. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, is there any benefit to living in that world?
Well, for there are examples where you can say, the metaverse to me is a container concept. And the metaverse itself, it doesn't exist. And I don't think, for me, it's more like, the metaverse, we talk about it, that upcoming new innovative technologies, like you know them better than I do, I think, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, virtual reality, blockchain. Eventually it will develop a new kind of internet, and we get used to that internet, and it will enable us to live a seamlessly mixed reality life. So we get all kinds of information and content layers when we are walking the streets here in Amsterdam. So Google Maps, now we have to pick up our phone and look where we want to go. Google recently released their new, you can't say Google Glass, but they released their new Google Glass. I think it's an incredible piece of technology. Last week, Mojo Visions released some lenses with AR projection in it. So within the upcoming years, we will walk the streets and with an overlay. We will say, oh, you want to go here and you want to have dinner here. It's cost you this and this. And that's where I think we are heading when we talk about the metaverse. And one very deep explanation of it is that, the upcoming generations will eventually go in virtual worlds and live there as an avatar, or be there some part of the day to do their job, or to educate themselves, or and it's not black and white. I think we have to see where things are going, but I think there are also very good utilities to that kind of development. But for sure, if we're going to enter that era not knowing who you are and not knowing what you want, then it will it can lead to a disaster. Yeah, for sure.
So everything becomes virtual in that case. So this is where NFTs come in, where people start to buy pictures, really, computer photos or computer things for money.
Yeah, because the virtual, so that's where we talk about Web3. So it's the internet built on the blockchain. We can have a conversation about, the up and the downside of the blockchain. But I think it's always, and you're way longer in this technology space. But when new technology arises, we are always tempted to celebrate it and not know the downside of it. And I think that's something, if you look at the blockchain, we have to focus more also on the downside. But it's about ownership. So Web3, built on the blockchain, will enable us to own digital assets. So if you look at Roblox now, and the example that I gave you about the virtual Nikes kids buy in Roblox, then that virtual sneakers, they can only use it in Roblox, in that wallet garden. And you can't transport it. You can't transport your Nikes that you bought in Roblox to Minecraft or to Fortnite. And the whole idea, the whole concept of the NFTs is that you can claim and you can prove that something virtual is yours. So it's an ownership certificate. And that will enable you that when you buy those virtual Nikes as an NFT, everybody can see that you really own the Nikes, and you can sell them to who you want and when you want. And the blockchain enables us to, and that's where, I think something important is going, is developed, that the blockchain is also that community who's developing Web3 is focused on cutting out the middleman. Mm. So I think, if you look at Facebook, if you look at Meta, then that's clearly a middleman who didn't who didn't handle in the best interest of his users, right? Mm. And I think coming from that era, with platforms and middlemen who are so powerful that, if you want to use the platform, they will abuse you in some kind of way, maybe on privacy, maybe on selling you ads and whatever. And I think Web3 and the whole community is now focused on how can we give back the power to the users and let the user be in control of the internet. So it's more like, Web 1. And the NFTs and the blockchain has a very important part in that.
So let's talk about the typical listener today. Would you advise they go to this world or stay away?
Well, I should say that I think it's you can avoid it. I mean, it's coming our way. So we have to think about how do I want to interact with it, and how do I want to deal with this kind of new technology that's coming at us. And I think it's important, if we talk about rest, if we talk about sitting quietly in a room alone, dealing with myself and know who I am, knowing what I need. That's first of all, I think, the basics where you have to work on before you can say, so how do I want to interact with that new technology and how do I want to be part of metaverse or the new internet? How can I use it in a way that is not damaging me, but it's helping me as a human to do my work better, to maybe communicate in a different way, maybe to travel less, maybe to train myself and educate myself in a totally different way that I'm used to. But first of all, I think the basic has to be, who am I as a human? Where do I stand for? And what's inside of me? What are my values that I want to hold on as a human? And then after that comes the second question, and that's how do I want to interact and with this new kind of technology, and what am I going to use?
Yeah, I think that question is becoming very challenging when you think about it. I mean, I thought of writing another technology book after Scary Smart. I have not put it on the roadmap yet, but it was called Sentient Technology, and the idea that we are now creating several kinds of technologies that are very unlike technologies we've created before. One side of that is what I term as obligatory technologies. It's like technology that will be out there and you'll have no choice but to join it. If you don't join it, you're at a very distinct disadvantage. And the other is the sentiism side of them. So some of those technologies like artificial intelligence, we've heard recently about the Google artificial intelligent sentient being. And I think that gene editing is some kind of a sentient technology because the edited gene goes out there and then continues to edit itself, if you want. And those kinds of technologies, interestingly, are now obligatory, because if someone uses CRISPR, for example, to edit a gene of a rabbit and releases the rabbit out in the wild, whether you like it or not as a human, living in Pakistan, eventually that gene, strain or strand is gonna come your way, right? And it is obligatory in that sense that we don't really have a choice anymore on what we want to participate in and what we don't. I feel that daily because honestly, I dislike social media with a vengeance, but I have no choice if I want to spread a good message to the world to not be there. It's not a choice that I have. I have to admit, though, I struggle in my mind because I'm a gamer, as you rightly said, and I spend 45 minutes a day, 4 times a week when I'm sort of getting ready for my skill level in a virtual world completely. I mean, I'm completely absorbed. I'm completely in flow. My avatar is doing all the work, and I'm killing all of you listening. But I'm there in that virtual world, and there is an interesting side to that. But if I'm there if I'm not there 45 minutes a day, instead I'm there the rest of the day, then I think something is going really wrong.
Yeah, but I don't think that and I mean, I'm not the marketing guy for the metaverse. Huh? I mean, I'm just, as with my gut feeling of an understanding of where consumers are heading, that's why I deep dived into it and want to understand what's coming to us. And I don't think people will live the whole day in the metaverse. I think it will be, not yet, I think, but eventually, no, not yet. Yeah, for sure. And one thing so where things can go misunderstood is the word game and gaming. So that's will probably bring in minds to people. We talk about play, but if you look at what game engines like the Unreal Engine, I mean, Fortnite is built by Epic on the Unreal Engine, and if you look at the kind of content and the ease where you can create that content for free. I mean, photorealistic. I mean, people here on the streets can't see that it's fake. It's so good nowadays. If we talk about the metaverse and we talk about, future virtual worlds, then the word game, you have to don't get misled by the word game. So if you're going to research what we are talking about, I should strongly advise look at YouTube and look for some examples of the Unreal Engine.
Yeah, I mean, I saw one of your talks once when you played Morgan Freeman at the beginning. Yeah, by Unreal, and it's unreal.
Yeah,
because even after you told us that this was not Morgan Freeman, it was computer generated entirely. The voice, the image, everything, the tonality of the speech. I still didn't believe you.
Yeah,
I actually rewinded it a few times. And I still didn't believe you. I don't know if we can include this actually in the video here. If we can, probably we should.
I am not Morgan Freeman, and what you see is not real. Well, at least in contemporary terms, it is not. What if I were to tell you that I am not even a human being?
But Unreal is providing everybody who wants, with meta-humans, I mean, plug-and-play avatars that are lookalikes like you and me. It's incredible. And if you have some kind of technical background and knowledge, not even, I mean, it's low code.
Animating them is no problem at all.
It's crazy. But for us, that's a concern because we are grown up with, that real is the thing that you have to strive for. But the upcoming generations, for them, fake is becoming as real is for us. So that's a change in the upcoming years that, if we said, who wants to value virtual goods in the same way that, physical goods for them, that's their reality.
I have to say, when I think about those things, it's so mind twisting because in a very interesting way, when you buy a Gucci bag or whatever, and what you're paying for is your ego, really, right?
Yeah.
So if you, it's not the bag, it's not the leather, it's not the physical material, and so if you pay for it in an online game, you're still buying the same ego, interestingly, and so that confuses my brain a little. The other side is when people talk about deep fakes. I have to say, what you show, with Unreal and so on, is just very, very, very shocking, but. It's always been fake. I mean, when you, I don't know if people think about this, but when you watch a romantic movie where the actor is making love to the actress, and you're so like, oh my God, they're in love. They're not really. They're not even making love. No. There's not. It's all fake. It's been fake for quite a long time. Yeah. Even those who position themselves as real, like news shows. It is fake in a way because, they're showing 1/10 of the truth.
No, I mean, I was in that industry, the television industry. I mean, I always said, it's fake. And that's something, so that in my opinion is an upside what social media brought us. I mean, we can definitely talk about the downside of social media, but in a way, social media has educated millions of people about what's fake and what's not. I mean, because you have a one-on-one relationship with your phone and you are so close to the content, it is so in your face literally, that people nowadays feel if it's fake or not, if the message that somebody is telling you is fake or not. And I believe that in some kind of way, people are watching less and less TV because they now feel how fake it isn't. Yeah, how fake it is. So that's something that, and if you talk about fake stories, I mean, you addressed, the 1800s that we didn't have Netflix and we didn't have TV. No, for sure, but people were searching for some kind of distraction back in those days. I mean, they were sitting around campfires and telling each other stories. And the guy who had the best story was probably the leader of the pack. And they couldn't verify if his story was right or not.
It's always been fake.
Yeah. And it's also, I mean, if we look at the stories that we are telling ourselves in our head, it's also fake. But it's,
my God, that's such an interesting point of view.
It's a story that you believe, that you are telling yourself who you are and what you achieved. And if you believe your own story, then it doesn't have to be true. I mean,
that's such an interesting point of view. I mean, we're not pro face filters and deep fakes, but it seems that humanity has always been faking it. It's quite an eye-opening
what
statement.
Is the truth?
What is the truth?
You tell me. And the deep fakes, for sure, it's in all kind of ways, it's a concern. I mean, the University of Tilburg begin this year said that they predict that in the upcoming 5 years, 90% of all the content that's been shown to you online is in one kind of way is manipulated. 90%. I mean, that's something, right?
It is quite something. I mean, even the content that I put out there, it's edited a little bit.
Exactly.
We're going to take this, this recording and
a filter.
And we're going to, remove when I said or whatever, right? The words that are not necessary might be edited, or there might have been a section that didn't go very well and we re-recorded it or whatever. And I think the definition of what is the truth is becoming quite complex.
I think I know you like to flip things over. So we are concerned about real and the deep fake that are coming ahead of us. But I mean, you could also argue that maybe it's a way bigger concern if we can handle the truth in the future.
Yeah.
So what if we ain't capable within the next 5 or 10 years to handle the truth anymore because we're so used to, manipulate the truth and that, we can't deal with it anymore. And then we go back and then that will eventually lead to we are not capable of sitting alone on our mountain in the Spanish Sierra Nevada, or you as a monk for 45, distract yourself from the Western society to go back to the core of Mo Gaudat. And that's really a concern, that we ain't capable anymore or don't want to be on ourselves anymore.
Wise words. It seems to me, honestly, that of my entire career in technology, that what technology has always done, which we tend to blame technology, but what technology has always done is it magnified what humans want to do.
Yeah.
You could walk at 5 kilometers an hour and you can drive a car at 280, right?
Exactly.
That mobility is just magnified by the technology, but we wanted to drive that far. We wanted to drive that fast. And I think what when you start to say it's always been fake, it seems that technology is just making us more capable at faking it.
Yeah, for sure. But like we said before, I am responsible of what I want to do with that technology. For sure, I can create deep fakes, but I also can create very meaningful kind of piece of content to help others. I mean,
I can also reject fakes. I mean, I think what I'm trying to say is that if humanity starts to reject fake, then the technology will serve going in that direction. I think that's really the core issue, is that we are the ones that wanted the actor and the actress to fake making love. We are the ones that wanted the news media to keep telling us the negative. We are the ones that are basically liking a video of our friend, which we know is using a filter, and saying, "Oh my God, you look amazing, girl," right? And I think that reality is not the mistake of technology; it's our mistake.
Yeah.
And maybe the way to reverse that is to go the opposite way and go to the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
To tell the technology, I need you to help me find that peace. I need you to help me connect deeply to myself and not be sucked in that world where there is very little reality anymore.
Yeah, but you and I think, have a little understanding of what we are talking about. But how do we provide this message, and how do we achieve this with the billions of people around the world who are just living mindless, sorry to say, and chasing all kind of things and liking and sharing and commenting on this guy. So when do we as society and as humans say it's enough? This is the point when we say, ain't no more. This is enough.
I mean, it's funny when I think about it. I know a lot of people will hate me when I say this and send me horrible messages on Instagram. But I never really read fiction in my life. And when people asked me why, I always said, there is so much, fiction in life itself. There is so much drama in life itself. Why would I read fiction? Like, I can observe life and see the fiction. And maybe at that very, very beginner's level of, if it's not real, I don't want it. I don't watch the news either, because I remember vividly growing up in Egypt where we had two TV stations, one repeating what the president said and the other repeating what the first one said. And I knew this was not true, right? And, so I didn't want to be in that environment. And there might be a call to action here to, instead of sucking what did you call it? Embracing the suck of how much life sucks when we are lied to so much. Maybe we should go the opposite way. Maybe we should start a revolution. Say, I'm no longer going to accept lies. I don't want to be lied to. I don't want fakes. I want life with its sweat and blood, with its, mucus and fights, and with everything that I disagree with my friends with sometimes. And I want it because this is the drama of life, and I love it as it is. I want it with all of its joy, of all of its laughs, of all of its, pain and carrot cakes, and the weight that comes with the carrot cake. Because eventually, when you really think about it, if we continue in that direction, we might end up adding a new layer to reality. So your consciousness is using your body as an avatar, and your body is using technology as an avatar. That's a very weird place for me to be.
Yeah, but I think, it's in front of us, and it's already here. I mean, it's not even in front of us anymore. I mean,
it's around us, all around us.
It's around us, for sure. And basically what you say is, we have to learn to handle the truth about life.
I'm going to end there. Actually, I normally would end Slo Mo's on a very positive note and, wise advice for what we need to do. I think this is a very wise place to end, because I think we need to learn to handle the truth, honestly. I think Meta can build the metaverse. Games can flood our Xboxes. Until we choose to be in that reality, it's not your reality. If you can choose to go to the top of the mountain, or I'm not telling anyone where I'm going for the next 45 days, if you choose that, then by definition, you end up in a place where it is your reality, with the ants, with the bugs, with the flies, with the, cold sometimes, with the warmth sometimes. And that is truly, I think, what life is, not the life that we've been building. Carlo, I love you dearly, man. It's always such an incredible pleasure. And I always am very grateful for all the support, all of the advice that you give me. I think you single-handedly have helped me over the years reach hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people because of all your kindness, all of your smarts, all of your advice, and all of your support. I'm very grateful.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for the kind words. And I think, you are on a mission I daily want to support. And I want to shout out to Sonia, because I think, Sonia and...
Have I spoken about Sonia on this podcast before? Sonia Dippel, find her on Instagram and bombard her like you bombard me. So Sonia heads 1 billion happy.
Yeah.
So for I part of my heart is 1 billion happy, but all of Sonia's day is 1 billion happy. So definitely she introduces us. All of us that are more pushing this mission to really excel and spread happiness as much as we can.
So thank you for having me on your show, and I hope to see you soon again.
Thank you for being here. Thank you all for listening. As I say, this maybe is one of those Slo Mo podcasts that are scary, just so that you take a moment and actually think about this. Find me or Carlo on Instagram and continue the conversation if you want. Oh, I'm telling you to go to the other world. Anyway, think about it, because I think we need more reality in our life. We need to learn to handle the truth. With that, I thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to meet such incredible people and sit in such amazing places and continue my quest for wisdom everywhere in the world. Wherever you are today, I promise you need a little bit of time on top of the mountain. So regardless of how busy you are today, find a little bit of time to slow down. I love you all for listening, and I will see you next time.